Welcome to another episode of Surface and Panel Symposium Podcast. And we couldn't be more excited to have a leader in the industry joining us today, Mr. Jon Wenger, President and CEO of Genesis Products. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Patrick. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. So how are things on your side of the COVID fence?
Right now we're fortunate and things are pretty busy. It's obviously there's been shifts in the various industries around the country, and seems like a lot of the industries that we're working with are doing pretty well right now. So
yeah, we're seeing the same thing. It's pretty amazing that when you watch the news, it would have you believe that the world's ending, and literally the whole world. And yet here we are in the building materials industry, and we seem to be humming along. So knock on wood.
Yes.
That continues. But I noticed there's no colorful living room backdrops or kids running around in your background. So you're at the office.
Yes, we essentially were mostly remote at home, from middle of March, obviously, till really June 1st. Really, the first week of June, we pretty much came back to the offices and have been full office, full manufacturing since the first week of June. And really, too, a lot of the industries we service were essential industries. A lot of our kitchen cabinet accounts, did not shut down. We have a plant that does a lot for, Caterpillar, John Deere. Some of the construction ag industry did not shut down. So probably 3 of our 9 facilities were working throughout. Obviously, we needed office support for some of that.
Right.
A big industry for us is the RV industry. They were shut down for 6 weeks and then came back in June. And really outside of, certain precautions, distancing, mask, cleaning, all those things, it's pretty business as usual around here.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we also kind of fall into that same category. We're considered essential as well, and we probably like invest in quite a bit of technology and infrastructure, and never really put it to the test. So we took about 2 months and kind of remote based everybody. And it was an interesting experiment. I have to say, in a lot of ways, I was pleasantly surprised. And granted, everything was closed. So I put the asterisk on that experiment, saying they really had nothing else to do but work, because it's not like you can run out to the movies.
Right.
But it went surprisingly well. But everybody unanimously voted to come back to the office.
Yeah, it's just, I always say we're a manufacturing company. Until you can manufacture from home, everyone needs to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, for those in the industry that have been living under a rock, walk us through generally, what Genesis does and how you do it and why you're the best.
Yeah, generally speaking, we're a, interior component supplier, mostly focused on, sort of panels and moldings are the core of our product lines. Over the years, we've certainly expanded our toolbox of materials and products outside of that. But we founded the business on panel products, doing lamination, putting film on wood, right? And since then, we've gotten better and better at making things out of, panels, assemblies, cabinets, doors, cabinet doors, a lot of those types of components. So, historically, we've been a little bit more, laminate, interior, wood product focused. Lately, we've started working with a lot of new materials as well. We're doing a lot with non-woven poly fiber products in our Wellform division, where we're getting into other sort of interior components. We're doing, ceiling tiles, office furniture, privacy screens, other sort of molded, interior trim for automotive industries. But end of the day, we're a supplier, right? We're supplying other manufacturers. A lot of that happens to be, cabinet and furniture related, whether it's cabinets and furniture in an RV or cabinets and furniture in a home and office. And certainly we've then gotten a little bit more moved with the interior trim gotten into a little bit more sort of not tier one automotive, but secondary automotive markets as well. But we source around the world, so we're just working with mills, whether it's laminate mills, panel mills, or other raw material mills from around the world. We're great at sourcing, importing, logistics, and then have pretty extensive domestic manufacturing capabilities to be able to take all those materials, convert them, work with our end users to specify programs, really develop supply chains, develop the components they need that are custom to them for their production, and then provide just-in-time products for them to keep producing. Right. So, end of the day, it's really that combination of material expertise, sourcing, logistics, large-scale domestic manufacturing to really set up good programs and supply chains for domestic manufacturers.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, in doing background and kind of learning more about your company, I mean, it's an amazing success story. It's an amazing growth story. But I'm always fascinated more in the leadership side of things and the decision side of things, because coming from several past lives where that really makes the difference, sometimes life or death. It makes all the difference. And it seems like you have an amazing culture and you have an amazing ability to make really smart growth decisions. So, as we're in COVID times, and, I think leadership is exceptionally important through uncertain, chaotic times like now, but then especially during, big growth cycles like our industry is experiencing, how do you make your decisions? So for example, you mentioned, outsourcing and importing and, partner manufacturing facilities, but in the same breath, very robust domestic, internal manufacturing capabilities. So how do you make some of those decisions about, do we outsource? Do we do it ourselves? Do we do a combination of that? And where do you kind of draw that line in terms of what should we do versus what should we let other people who are already experts do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and I don't know if there's an exact formula that we use. I mean, end of the day, when it comes to sort of, I guess, my leadership style or our company, I mean, leadership style, I I try to be. I mean, for one, you've got to be in the middle of your business, right? You've got to know what's going on, understand the dynamics, understand sort of what's working, what's not working. So ultimately, I would say I'm a relatively intuitive leader, where it's sort of you sense what's cohesive and you sense what's not, right? And then you make decisions where that is going to sort of remove the inconsistencies or build cohesiveness, right? And so I think ultimately for me, it's what's working, what's not working, right? If it's working, you do more of it. If it's not working, you stop it and do something else. So, maybe, so in some ways it's, you kind of, maybe there is this not quite trial and error, but you test things that works, you do more of it. If you test something and it doesn't work, you don't do that, right? So I think it's more, if you're in the middle of your business and you're intuitive about it, you can really make a lot of small decisions, and that gives you the ability to sort of ebb and flow the business in the right directions, I would say. At the same time, we're 18 years old now. And so, that's probably a little bit more of the entrepreneurial approach, and we are getting a little bit bigger, where decisions are a little bit more, or have a little bit more significant impact. Investments are bigger. Some of the supplier or customer relationships might have bigger scale. So you can't quite trial and error everything then at that point, right? So certainly then it's just really about, choosing good partners, choosing good people. I've always said we want to win by doing what's right, right? We're just making decisions. Does this feel right? Is it right? Is it positive? Is it, letting us go where we want to go? So I think it's having a good filter.
But it doesn't sound like you're afraid of making a mistake here and there.
No, not a, we've made plenty of mistakes for sure. Obviously, we've made enough good ones that obviously we've made more good ones than bad ones. But we certainly have made plenty of mistakes. A lot of products that didn't necessarily work out. Whether it's people that didn't work out, investments, equipment that wasn't the right choices. I mean, there's always a lot of decisions that weren't necessarily always the right ones. But you got to avoid making things that are going to kill you, right? You got to know what are consequential, that it's got to be right, and that's where you put more time, take some baby steps or some small steps towards
Yeah.
that before you make those decisions that are really that could make or break you, right?
Sure, but you've made some pretty big decisions. I mean, you've opened a couple new plants
Yeah.
in a pretty short period of time, right?
Yeah, so yeah, we've added two facilities. It's really kind of one our sort of large, complex, but two facilities. One opened up January 2018. Last one opened up August 2019. There it's, and I think even in the talking points it said, what was that like? Frankly, it was so painful not having space that the process of building space and moving into it was really nice, right? So, and fortunately, we have a really great, VP of engineering and team that really was an operations team that was really able to lead those processes. But we were using offsite warehousing. It felt like we were playing a equipment Tetris within our facilities, where the same piece of equipment we were moving 3 or 4 times just because we kept having to try to fit more in, right?
Right.
And you just get to a point where you realize that not having the square footage you need to manage your business is just so painful and so costly that the cost of facility versus not managing the rest of your business well is just, it's a pretty easy decision. So certainly big decisions. Fortunately, we had kind of had a lot of pent up space requirements before we built those, so it was sort of, a lot of it was overdue square footage, and we
Right.
consolidated some stuff in, but then kind of everything else just sort of got right sized. And
Right.
really these facilities allow us to really right size ourselves. And now we've got to make sure that we stay ahead, because again, you get behind, it's just very painful. So
Yeah. Yeah. But you were building both of those. There was an overlap there, no doubt. So at some point, you were
yes.
building both of them simultaneously.
Yeah, we essentially finished the one while we're kind of finished moving into one while we're essentially starting the planning, finalizing the planning on the other one. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
did
essentially.
so tell me about the people component of that, because you and I both know as leaders we're only as good as our teams, and we can come up with winning ideas all day long, and if the team can't execute, we're the ones that look bad. So it turns out you look really good. We can either say you're a genius, or you just have a fantastic team.
Right. Definitely have a great team. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's probably what I spend the most time on is people. And yeah, it just really team development, people development, getting the right people in the right spots, right? Creating that organization. And it's constant work and constant maintenance, right? And you just have to put lots of time into it. And I always just tell to our managers that you can't delegate people, right? You can't delegate leadership to others in the organization. You have to personally be involved in making sure that our organization is completely cohesive, that we're attracting talent, that we're retaining talent, that we're, developing people. And that's, yeah. So certainly having a culture where people can be successful, culture where people can achieve their goals. That's sort of what always we commit when we hire people, is that whatever your potential is, you're going to be able to achieve it here. We don't commit that they'll be able to achieve whatever they want, but we say whatever your potential is, if you can grow, you're going to be able to grow here, right? So it's letting them do that, letting them, take opportunities, let them make things happen. And certainly our teams executed well in our expansion, and they're doing a great job right now. But
Yeah.
it's just constant refinement. What's working, what's not working, and not being afraid to deal with the things that aren't in sync. You just have to I always say deal with it when it's a small problem, not a big problem. And so you just have to be in tuned enough to know where the small problems are and address them quickly. So
Right, right. No, that's great advice. So you work across several different markets and industries. What what are you seeing out there in terms of market trends? And specifically, as it relates to what the world's been dealing with since February, because I think, they say that it takes 6 weeks to create a new habit. And we've been dealing with wearing masks and a bunch of new things for over 6 months now. So do you think that this is going to cause a shift in trends and the way business is done? And like, for example, you mentioned RVs, and while the RV industry kind of did shut down for a short period of time, there demand is exploding for RVs right now. And time will prove whether that's a temporary thing or whether that's a shift of culture that we're going back to the 60s of being a camping nation.
right.
But then on the flip side, you've got the office space and commercial space where we've had a 6 month experiment of letting everybody work from home, and some very major employers domestically are kind of pushing off ever kind of returning from the office and buying themselves out of very large scale leases,
Right.
because I guess see the future as, okay, we can be just as productive working from home. So if that's the case, there's a lot of panel products that go into equipping, millions of square feet of office space. How do you manage those two dynamics, and what kind of trends do you think will flush out of this?
Yeah, the office space one's certainly interesting, and that's a market that we work in for sure. It's a little bit of a newer market for us from some of the non-woven polyester products, but I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a believer in the office space, but I understand why it's not fully needed. I think people want to be in a social space when they're working. I don't know. I mean, yeah. So we'll see. I think that one's got to play itself out. I think there's still going to be offices, and whether they're as many as there used to be, we'll see. And I guess for us, I think within the office space, obviously, having more private space and having, a little bit more distant space and is going to be key. And that's where, screens have been a big deal for us, making sure that there is, the options to have barriers, between workspaces and a little bit more, sort of less being on top of each other, right? So that within offices, that's a trend that we're definitely focused on.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how it plays out. My guess is that they'll, obviously there's a reaction now, but it's hard to, like, when you're onboarding new people and you're hiring employees and training and sort of trying to develop your culture. And I don't know it just feels like that dynamic is going to be totally different when you're working from home. And so when 90% of or 100% of your team was at the office and then you go remote, it works great because everyone knows each other and everyone's trained.
Right.
But like when 5 years from now, when you have a lot of new people and it's
And
all,
they've never met each other face to face.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
think say, oh wow, we need to get people back together again, and we need better training, and we need them to interact. So I don't know. We'll see.
No,
Yeah,
I think it's a wise point that we're keen, or a lot of people have the propensity to be quick to react to things, right? They see this move, so that equals this extreme,
right.
and maybe it's just a fad, and maybe we are. I'll say even I was very, very surprised. Like I said, we had a little 2 month experiment, and over half of our team is millennial, and we were working really well remotely. I mean, communication was great, collaboration was great, productivity was through the roof, and so I had kind of this thought, maybe it was a hope, that we could eliminate a ton of overhead by just getting rid of the office, and everybody could work remote. And so I made the mistake of putting it out to a very public vote, and 100% voted to come back to the office as
Right.
quickly as possible, including all the millennials.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I was very surprised, but I think we're social creatures, so I think you're right. It's good.
But even for us, we've had a few people that either weren't quite for them. It wasn't, they weren't quite ready to come back. So it did make us realize that, hey, it is okay for someone to work remotely. And even we've had a few people that had opportunities with their families and needed to relocate, and normally it wouldn't have worked out for them to stay employed and stay working for us. Now we've let them move and stay within on the team, and that's actually worked out well. So we're definitely more open-minded to those
Right.
dynamics than what we had been, and it's actually created opportunities to retain some people that might have been that might have left the company because of just other circumstances. So
Yeah.
but certainly RVs, yeah, a big trend. I mean, all the money that was going into air travel and hotels and going out of the country is now staying with people, touring the country and going camping. So we think that's a trend.
So what's your forecast? Should I sell my RV now while demand's super high and supply is short? Or do you think the resale market 18 months from now is going to be flooded with 1 million used RVs?
I think if you like RVing, you should keep your RV.
What?
So it's not about the money, Patrick. It's whether you enjoy the lifestyle or not.
It is all about the lifestyle, no doubt. I'll tell you, in March, my wife, I think she was having a mental breakdown because she said, I had this thought, the housing market. We're in Southern California, God help us, and the housing market is ridiculously strong right now because nobody's selling their houses.
Right.
And she said, what do you think if we sell the house while it's high and we buy an RV, since the kids are being, essentially homeschooled on computers anyway, and we just travel the nation for a year?
Yeah.
On paper, that sounds like an amazing idea, but just remember that's 365 days of being on the road with a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, homeschooling them on a computer. So, I'll be driving. So you let me know what you think about that. And it only took a couple nights before she said, yeah, I think we should probably stay where we're at and just camp on the weekends every once in a while.
Well, we've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm pretty sure that we would not sign up for that. So
it's one of those things, like on paper, it sounds really great. But, when you really start thinking about the details, we also just went on again, my wife's idea, but she'd never been on a true road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And, the one good thing about California is you can see a lot of really different stuff within a road trip.
Right.
So we packed up the kids in the truck without the RV and went on a 7-day, 2,000-mile road trip through California.
Wow.
With a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I kept looking back because she reserved this space on my calendar as family vacation, and I kept reflecting back on that word vacation, saying, well, I always build a mental picture of what vacation is, and this isn't feeling like it. But the good thing is I think it's universal that everybody has a road trip story from childhood that they tell as an adult, right?
Absolutely.
And now my kids are going to have one too.
Did you have any trouble finding campsites?
Well, we didn't camp. We stayed in hotels this time because we covered so much ground over 7 days.
All right,
so we have been having a ton of trouble finding campsites. So it baffles me that all these people are buying RVs, because I'm wondering, like, where are you going?
Right.
Because we can't find a campground anywhere.
Yeah, it's one of the big challenges, is really making sure that campgrounds and facilities are keeping up with the demand. Right. It's not just about having the RV; it's about having places to stay.
Well, and I'm sure in other parts of the nation this is less of a problem, but out here, find a place to store that RV. Good luck. There is nowhere to even park them unless you already had a spot. So, yeah, it's a bunch of interesting COVID-related challenges.
Right.
What are you excited about looking forward? products, people, things, markets, just not having to wear a face mask?
Kind of all the above, right? We're always product leadership's a big deal for us, so we always get excited about product, and we're in the middle of a lot of things, so we get to go out and explore the world for new materials and new products and figure out how they can apply to the markets that we service, and then come up with solutions to, work with our manufacturing, customers. But so no product, we are excited about, providing more and more sort of domestic, manufacturing support. Again, there's always going to be, outsourcing to Asia and other countries. At the same time, I think people are more and more open to having, domestic manufacturing, outsourced suppliers. So we're excited about that. We think that we're well positioned to help people focus. So I guess how I always pitch it or try to think about it is that, we work with so many different industries and so many different manufacturers that you realize that their value proposition, a kitchen cabinet company, an office furniture company, whatever it is, their value proposition is their brand, their product, their design, their sales chains, their service, their logistics. That's their value proposition as a company. Their manufacturing is really a best practice. How you run a saw or assemble or, whatever it is, that's a best practice. It is not their value proposition. And I think a lot of the current furniture cabinet companies, whatever it is, they started their companies because they're manufacturers. I'm sure whether it's, steel case or, or master brands or whatever, there's probably a story where, basically a guy liked making things, and so he started making a cabinet, and then all of a sudden, he's a cabinet company.
Right.
So I think most of these companies were founded with manufacturing, but now that's not their value proposition anymore. Their value proposition is their, engineering, sales, marketing, service, logistics, and manufacturing is a best practice. And that's where we're saying, hey, let us put your time and money and your investment, where you can differentiate yourself. Your manufacturing is not going to differentiate you from your competitors, and let us do that, right? Because when you get a price from us, you don't worry. It's a fixed price at a fixed quality, and it is off your radar. Obviously you have to make sure that you have to sort of receive and inspect parts and whatnot. But again, focus on your differentiation. And as an OEM, your differentiation is not your manufacturing. Right. So, and I think so for us, that's what, and also too, even from an economic model, if we are touching, 10 different industries. So if we go out and invest in a saw or a CNC or edge bander, if one industry slows, it is easier for us to repurpose that investment to other industries that are doing well.
Right.
And if you're a furniture company, you can't go sudden and just start making, kitchen cabinets because you don't have the product design. They cannot shift that investment to a different industry as quickly as we can. So even from an economic model, it's safer for us to invest in, infrastructure than it is for, OEMs. And really their manufacturing is not their value proposition. And so they're investing and spending so much time on managing manufacturing, and that's not even a differentiator.
Right.
So
makes a lot of sense.
And that's where we're saying, hey, let us be a partner. Let us, obviously we're not necessarily trying to replace your manufacturing, but maybe let us be a piece of that, right? Let us be, whether it's don't work weekends, don't work overtime, maybe not buy that, and maybe not open up that second facility, let us handle some of that, to create a little bit more flexibility and let you to focus more on your differentiation.
Right.
So yeah, that is an exciting story for us. And we see, it's not obviously where all of a sudden people are, getting rid of their manufacturing or not outsourcing to, other countries. But yeah, it's when you find the right fit and you find the right customers that are looking for that, it works really well. And it's something that we are excited about.
I love it. I love it.
People we're most excited about. Generally, people we're always most excited about. We love building our teams. We love working with our teams. Anytime we get new talent on the team, everyone gets excited. We have fun here. And yeah, so we always say our thing is product driven, people powered. So yeah, excited about product. We're excited about people. And really we're excited about the industries we're in because they're all have a lot of upside potential in them.
Sounds like there's a lot of excitement over there, man.
There is. It's good. It's a good day. So
I like it. Well, listen, we close every podcast with two questions. One is, what do you love most about this industry, and what's your message to the whole industry? The whole world's going to be watching this, Jon. So what's your message to them? But first, what keeps you here? What do you love most about this industry?
I like
you do love this industry, right?
I do love this industry. It's a good question. Wow, there's so many things, but I always tell people, wood products is a great industry, right? It's super internet. It's really international. It's you're sourcing materials from all around the world, and I think that makes it a really fun dynamic. Wood isn't sort of this like perfect recipe, right? Every tree has different characteristics, with different functions and different price points coming from different countries. So, I always find that aspect of it really, really interesting and fun. I love the aesthetic nature where you're working with design and look and function. So it's sort of that, the creating that design aesthetics and function is always a really, fun part for us that I love. So again, I don't know why our sort of the way, not to sort of drag this answer out, but when we look at sort of how to describe what we do as a company, it's a little bit tough, right? Because it's we do this, and this. But really, what we've come to say is that we are elevating environments, right? Whether it's where you work, whether it's at your home, or where you play, that's what we're doing. We're elevating environments. We're making your kitchen, your bath, your office, your RV. We're making those spaces better, and ultimately, that's what we love doing. And yes, that's what I love about this industry.
Awesome. All right. So what's your message to the world?
I don't know. But what I've been saying a lot this week to our teams are a little stressed out right now because we're pretty busy, and everyone's a little bit behind. And anytime you're behind, your customers rightfully get a little demanding for everything. And just say, hey, good news is no one's dying. Every day ends. Companies are doing well. Let's just make sure we're having fun and fighting hard every day, but making sure we're having fun. So that's what we're doing.
I love it. As I like to remind people, these are first world problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Well, listen, Jon Wenger, President, CEO, Genesis Products. I had a blast talking to you.
Right, same thing.
Best of luck to you, and look forward to when our paths cross in person.